this game and it last week in a rivalry game with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Vontaze Burfict, who stays in the news for illegal hits, shots to the head. Watch going against a lot of these high profile, because they're going to put him in space. He's going to have to cover some of those running backs. Travis Kelce, or watch for Tyreek Hill coming across the middle. I think that individual battle trying to slow down that offense, and what Vontaze Burfict as the captain of that defense, is he able to get them in the type of sets that are able to slow down Kansas City? Because in theory, you can say, yeah, I'm going to run the ball. I'm going to try to keep the ball away. But ultimately, man, you're going to have to be able to face them the way the Pats did last week. And you could see, I didn't think Kansas City lost that football game. I think that they just ran out of time. So are the Bengals going to try to duplicate some of the things that the Pats were not very, very successful? Because they scored 40 points, even though they did give up 43.
Well, and even though they only scored 9 in the first half. Yes. The Chiefs will never panic offensively. Real quick, I'm glad you mentioned Vontaze Burfict. I thought he should have been suspended for what he did last week, given his track record, given the fact that if people didn't see it, a little forearm shiver to Antonio Brown's head and then said to another player on the team, you're next. Like, Vontaze Burfict has a track record of this. If he has another dirty play this week, I'm not a disciplinarian. You guys know that. The league needs to look into him and his future playing football, because he is a dangerous menace on the field to other guys out there just trying to do their jobs. Now, go ahead, Steve.
Especially in prime time. You know, the league, they try to be consistent. The day games, all the games are big time. But when you're in prime time, something like this. So as you're watching the game, little tidbits, because he's going to be playing in space. They're going to have Kareem Hunt isolated on him. We saw those wheel routes that Kansas City ran last week against New England with their big, oversized linebackers. Well, that's exactly what Vontaze Burfict is. So it's going to be a challenge. And we have seen the Bengals struggle as far as in emotional exchanges with other teams, typically it being Baltimore or being Pittsburgh. This Kansas City team, the way they are offensively, they set up where they're going to put Vontaze Burfict in space, and he's going to have to be able to make some plays, and he's just shown the tendency that he's going to make some questionable ones.
And both these teams are coming off really emotional losses. Cincinnati took a lead with 1:10 left in the game last week against Pittsburgh, only to see Big Ben 7 plays, 75 yards, and 1:07 right down the field. The Chiefs, obviously, after playing terribly in the first half, took a fourth-quarter lead and then tied it again at 40-40, only to see Tom Brady and Gronk drive them right down the field. This is a huge game for potential home field advantage in the AFC. The only way I think Cincinnati can slow down the Chiefs' offense is if Geno Atkins dominates his matchup. The Chiefs have some injuries on offensive line.
Yes.
If that great D tackle dominates his matchup, offensively for Cincinnati, this has got to be a 4-down game. Once you pass midfield, if you're in 4th and short, you got to go for it. You got to rack up touchdowns against the Chiefs.
And Jenna, it's okay for you to be upset. Guys like Vontaze Burfict, the league saying they're into safety and everything. Guys and stuff, they shouldn't be able to play like that. So your natural reaction as a fan, it's realistic. Yes, people are upset that they still have a guy that's having questionable plays.
He's the only guy in the league like this. He's the only guy in the league like this. He was like this at Arizona State. He was like this his rookie year. A friend of mine was on the Bengals team. They were playing the Steelers in the playoffs. Real quick, right after the Bengals take the lead, and they took the lead because Burfict made a great play. Says to him, we win this game as long as you don't get a personal foul. Burfict says, got it. He grabs him. We win this game if you don't get a personal foul. And he ends up absolutely waylaying Antonio Brown, knocking him unconscious. He can't control himself. And if you can't control yourself, putting other people at risk, I don't know if you need to be in the NFL. Like, I don't usually get on that soapbox. He's a dangerous player.
It's refreshing to hear you on the soapbox. I've made room for you over here. I scooted over a little bit.
I don't want to be on their corner. I'm now scooting over on my corner, which is usually just saying, hit them where you want.
Come back to me.
Hit them where they've been.
Moving on to the NFC showdown between Dallas and Washington. Dallas has won 8 of the last 10 meetings, including 5 straight in D.C., where the game happens to be. But the Cowboys have yet to get a win on the road this season. They've yet to string 2 together. So, CeCe, what does Dallas need to get the first road win of the year in Washington?
Somehow, Scott Linehan and Jason Garrett, they have to try to grow what they did last week. Even in the highlight there, we have the design run. Great design. They got a tight end pulling, got an offensive lineman pulling out in front of Dak, caught the defense. And Jacksonville, one of the better defenses we've seen in the NFL the last couple years. How do they grow that? Because you're not going to. Because the element of surprise, it is gone. All right, teams will be ready for it. Washington will be ready for it. So what do they do off of that? Do they have a couple play action passes where he fakes as if he's going to run, pull up and be able to throw the ball down the field to try to generate some big plays? Because for me, you can't do what they're doing, overpower teams week after week after week. I don't believe Dak has the body that he can carry the ball 6 to 8 times a week. There's one quarterback in the National Football League he can do that, and that's Cam Newton. And Dak is not Cam Newton. So I want to see Scott Linehan. They're going to have to be creative. You have to be able to try to do things without backing Dak up conventionally and passing the ball 35 times. His track record in a little more than 2 years as the starter in Dallas is not positive as far as when those numbers say he's throwing the ball more than 25 times.
I'm glad you talked about the Cowboys offense against the Washington defense, because I'm going to take the flip side of this. Right now, Washington, if they're being honest with themselves, they feel like they mismanaged the Kirk Cousins situation. They didn't want Kirk anymore. They were waiting for a reason to get rid of him. They kept franchising him, and they just let him walk for nothing. They then trade away a good nickel corner in Kendall Fuller and a draft pick in order to be able to get Alex Smith there. Alex Smith is playing the worst football he's played in 4 years. They are a mediocre at best offense. They are relying heavily on Adrian Peterson, and credit to Adrian, because for 2 years now I've said Adrian's done. Last year I looked smart. This year don't look quite as smart. And so, but I don't think that's a sustainable way to succeed offensively in today's NFL. The Cowboys defense should be able to take advantage of an average at best Washington offense. Like that, that's how you get your first road win.
With Sean Lee coming back.
Sean Lee
which
coming
is another
back.
ejection.
It's important. And last year we would have said, well, they can't win without Sean Lee. To Dallas's credit this year, that Leighton Vander Esch draft pick plus Jalen Smith being healthy, they've been able to thrive without Sean Lee. But Sean Lee, when healthy, is still one of the better linebackers in football. We know how good DeMarcus Lawrence has been. You've made a point to talk about the safety that went to corner, Byron Jones.
Yes.
And what a solid transition he's made from safety to corner. This Cowboys defense should be able to put them in position to get their first road win of the year.
Are they good enough that you don't have to worry about what's going to happen on offense? Because every game that we start previewing about the Cowboys, it's, well, what's going to happen on offense? Well, who's going to get the ball? Is he going to run the ball? How many carries? Is he going to throw through the air? How many yards? Can you walk into a game and say, well, their defense is good enough against this Washington offense to at least keep them in this game?
Jenna, as long, and regardless of what Jerry Jones says, as long as they got number 4 at quarterback, you better be worried about the Dallas Cowboys are going to do offensively. And the reason why is their lack of being able to generate big plays. When you cannot generate big plays, it's hard to score points. Now, I know they scored 40 last week against Jacksonville, but when you watch the game and you know anything about football, you know, that was a little distorted a little bit. So since he's been there, they've struggled offensively. That first year, I told Nick, I thought they should have capitalized. That was their best chance to win a Super Bowl. So yes, I'm concerned. Why? They don't have elite talent on the outside, and man, they are challenged as far as passing the football, and that's been consistent through the first 7 weeks of the season.
And moving forward in this season, Cole Beasley's going to deal with something he's never dealt with his entire NFL career. Probably never thought he was going to have to.
Speed?
Never thought he was going to have to deal with the opposing team game planning to slow him down. If you are playing the Cow, obviously your number one option, your number one job is to slow down Zeke. But as far as the secondary guys, the safeties and the corners, they now can say the only guy that can hurt us is Cole. Like, we're not worried about Deontay Thompson, Michael Gallup. Allen Hurns has been a total disappointment. The unknown tight ends are still unknown because they're yet to make big plays. So now all of a sudden, Cole Beasley, he's not sneaking up on anybody. He was the only player on the Cowboys last week that had more than 2 catches, the only wide receiver who had more than 1 catch, and he was really good last week. So now you're going to go into a game against DJ Swearinger, who will hit some people, Josh Norman, who's probably not going to be matched up in the slot, but Josh Norman's going to take away whomever's on the outside, and you're going to have to go, if you're Cole Beasley, get open with guys ready for you. So that is, and credit to him, he's been the one wide receiver on their team that's been productive this year, but now you're dealing with the after effects of that, which is guys saying, if we stop the little wrapper in the slot, how are they going to move the football down the field passing?
All right, one more segment, and then it's the weekend coming up. What do we see from LeBron in his Lakers debut that might set the tone for the rest of the season? That's next on First Things First.
Cole Beasley had that on his vision board. He had 3 things. I want to be taller. I want to release a rap album.